Let's tackle a practical example using simple algebra to understand how small manufacturing operations can determine their break-even point and calculate weekly profits. The question reads, a small manufacturing operation can produce up to 300 units per week of a product that it sells for $25 per unit. The variable cost per unit is $16, and the fixed cost per week are $1,296. For question A, how many units must the firm sell per week to break even? And in part B, determine the firm's weekly profit or loss if it sells 150 units per week. To tackle problems like these, it is very important to go through the question again and write down all the important pieces of information. For instance, in the first sentence, we're told that they will be producing 300 units per week. Let's let X represent the units produced per period. So in our case, X represents 300 units per week. In that same sentence, we're told that each of those units will sell for $25 per unit. So we'll let S represent the sale price per unit. And in our case, that is $25 per every unit sold. Interestingly, if we multiply these two values together, 25 times 300, we'll end up with our total revenue. So we'll say TR, or total revenue, is equal to S multiplied to X. In the next sentence, it says that the variable cost per unit is $16. We'll let variable cost be represented as VC, and it's a rate. We're told that it's $16 per every unit. There's also another cost known as the fixed cost. The fixed cost is $12.96. Now remember, fixed costs can be anything from rent or salaries that must be paid, and variable costs can be things like utility bills or the amount that you must pay for maintenance. Things like these change over time. This is why we call them variable costs. Now, if you sum these two values, you get your total cost, which I'll represent as TC. So we'll say that TC is equal to your variable cost multiplied to the number of units, X, plus your fixed costs. With these two equations that we just produced, we can actually calculate the net income, or the total profit. So we'll say that net income, or the profit, is equal to your total revenue take away your total cost. Going back to the question, they say how many units must the firm sell per week to break even? What it means to break even means that your net income is zero. You weren't at a loss and you weren't at a gain. So to answer question A, we'll set the net income equal to 0. And let's substitute those expressions we found for TR and TC into this formula. We said that TR is equal to S times X, and TC is equal to VC times X plus FC. Now we can start to substitute the values that were provided in the question, with the exception of one of those values. You'll see which one in a moment. So again, we have 0 on the left side of the equation. The sell price was $25 per unit. And it is the value of X that we'll be leaving blank. Remember, we're told that 300 units are being produced per week. But what we're looking for in the question is the amount that we need to sell to break even. So we'll leave X as our unknown. And we subtract this. Within the brackets, our variable cost was $16 per unit. X will be left blank, just as before, plus $12.96. Now you're more than welcome to exclude the units while you're doing the calculation here. In fact, that's what I'll do moving forward. So I need to isolate for X algebraically. Here's how. First, I'll rewrite it without the units so that it's clear to see. And to isolate for X, we will multiply the negative into the brackets, giving us 25x minus 16x minus 1296. This is known as expanding the expression. Then I will move that value over to the other side where we have the 0. And this makes it positive 1296, leaving us with 25x take away 16x. The two terms on the right are like terms. Combining them gives us 9x. And subsequently dividing both sides by 9 should give us the amount that we must sell to break even. We end up with 144 units. So, if we happen to sell 144 units, we'll break even. We won't be at a loss or a gain. Now, if you don't want to isolate for X all the time, you're more than welcome to remember the following formula, where your break even, or the number of units you need to break even, is equal to your fixed cost divided by your sale per unit take away your variable cost. Essentially, if you memorize this formula, it replaces having to do all this algebra. But of course, memorizing is never a fun thing, so you're more than welcome to use either strategy. In question B, it says determine the firm's weekly profit or loss if it sells 150 units per week. Now we know that they will be at a profit because 144 is required to break even. But nevertheless, let's do the calculation. We go back to our net income or profit formula. Our net income or profit is equal to SX, or in our case, it's $25 per unit. That's being multiplied to 150 units per week. Take away the variable cost is $16 per unit. And that's being multiplied again to 150 units per week plus 1296. Again, when you calculate this, you can do it without writing all the units, but by writing the units, you get to see how everything neatly cancels out, leaving you with the income per week. Using our calculator, 25 times 150, take away 16 times 150, plus 1296. And we end up with a net income of only $54 per week. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you have any further questions, please leave them in the comment section below, and I'll gladly help you out. Talk to you all later.